Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're digging into a topic sent in by you, our listener. The Favero Assioma Pro RS power meter pedals. That's Assioma Pro RS.
Right.
We've got a good stack of sources here, reviews, analyses, including stuff from sites like the 5K Runner.
Ah, yes, the 5K runner. Good source. Described as a triathlete, cyclist, runner interested in performance measurement. Get some context.
Exactly. So our job today is to unpack what these reviewers are actually saying. You know, the good, the bad, maybe the surprising bits, help you get the picture quickly.
Okay, let's do it. So the Assioma Pro RS Favero's latest dual-sided power meter pedal. It's specifically for road bikes, and importantly, it's compatible with Shimano SPDSL cleats.
And the big deal is the design change, right? No more pods.
Exactly. All the important stuff, strain gauges, battery, the wireless bits, it's all tucked away inside the pedal spindle itself. Much cleaner than older models with those external pods.
Makes sense.
And they're designed and made in Italy, sticking with Favero's roots there.
Okay. And our sources, we're talking reviews from folk like DC Rainmaker, GPLlama, Bike Radar, the 5K Runner. They give us a lot to chew on. Let's start with the positives. What are reviewers really liking?
Well, what's interesting is how consistent some things are across the board.
Yeah.
Almost everyone leads with the weight.
Oh, yeah. How light are we talking?
We're talking really light, about 123.5 grams per pedal, so 246 grams for the set.
Wow.
Reviewers keep calling them the lightest road power meter pedals out there. Some even say they're lighter than standard pedals without power, like Shimano Ultegra.
Lighter than standard pedals with all the tech packed in. That's pretty remarkable. Does that lightness come at a cost, though? Like, accuracy?
That's the thing. Apparently not. Accuracy is another huge point reviewers hammer home. Consistently excellent.
Okay.
They talk about rock-solid accuracy, benchmark stuff. It's rated at plus or minus 1%, even with oval chain rings, which can sometimes trip up power meters. That's top-tier standard accuracy.
Plus or minus 1% is the gold standard, isn't it?
Pretty much the highest normal level you see advertised, yeah. One reviewer, I think it was DC Rainmaker, called the data scary perfect, comparing it to other trusted sources.
Scary perfect. Okay, I like that. That kind of accuracy must build confidence. Do reviewers trust them long-term? Reliability.
Absolutely. That comes through loud and clear. Multiple reviewers mention having high trust in Favero generally, based on past pedals.
Right, like the older Assiomas.
Exactly. DC Rainmaker mentioned using older Faveros for years as his benchmark for testing other power meters. That says a lot.
Yeah, that's a strong endorsement.
And GPLlama said something similar about the Pro MX pedals, the off-road version, which uses the same spindle tech being super durable through years of testing. So the feeling is the Pro RS inherits that reliability. They just work.
Okay, so super light, scary accurate, and reliable. You mentioned the podless design earlier. Is that just looks, or are there real benefits?
Oh, it's definitely functional too. Big benefits. Putting everything inside the spindle cleans up the look, makes it look like a normal pedal.
Yeah, much cleaner.
But crucially, it makes them tougher. The electronics are way better protected from pedal strikes, crashes, even just water and grit getting in there. More confidence riding in bad weather.
That makes sense. Less stuff sticking out to get damaged. What about bike fit? Do they mess with your setup?
Another positive here, they have really standard dimensions. The Q factor, that's the width between the pedals, is plus 53 millimeters. Standard Shimano road pedal width, basically just 1 millimeter wider than Dura-Ace.
So barely any difference.
Right. And the stack height, how high your shoe sits above the axle, is low, 10.5 millimeters. Reviewers say this is key because it means basically no compromise to your bike fit.
Okay, so for you, the listener, that means you probably don't need to adjust your saddle height or cleat position when you install these.
Exactly. Keeps your pedaling biomechanics consistent, better comfort, maybe better power transfer, less injury risk. It's a big win.
Definitely a win. Okay, what about keeping them powered? Battery life and charging.
They quote at least 60 hours of battery life per charge. It's rechargeable.
60 hours. How does that stack up?
It's pretty good. More than enough for most people's typical weekly riding. But it is less than some competitors. Garmin Rally pedals, for instance, often boast 100, maybe 120 hours or more.
Okay. So maybe not ideal for like super long multi-day stuff without a charge.
Potentially, yeah. You need a plan for it. But for general use, 60 hours seems fine according to reviewers. Charging uses their magnetic clip thing on the spindle.
Ah, the proprietary connector.
Yes, still proprietary magnetic clips, but the good news is the cable itself is now USB-C, which is much more convenient than the old micro USB.
Okay, USB-C is definitely better.
And they mentioned the battery is welded to the circuit board, apparently helps prevent contact issues, power dropouts you sometimes get with coin cells.
Gotcha. 60 hours magnetic USB-C charging. What about connectivity and data? What do they send out?
Full connectivity, ANT+, and Bluetooth Smart. And importantly, they could do 3 Bluetooth connections at once. Useful if you run, say, a head unit, a watch, and maybe Zwift simultaneously.
3 channels. Nice. And the data itself.
Mm.
Beyond just power.
Oh yeah, you get the full suite, total power, obviously,
Yeah.
cadence, left-right balance since they're dual-sided,
Yeah.
and then all the advanced cycling dynamics stuff.
Right, the acronyms. PCO, PP, PS, TE. What are those again, quickly?
Okay, so PCO is platform center offset, where you push on the pedal. Power phase, PP, shows where in the stroke you make power. Pedal smoothness, PS, and torque effectiveness, TE. Look at how smoothly and effectively you apply that force. And rider position tells you if you're sitting or standing.
That's a lot of data. Maybe more than most people need day to day.
Possibly. We'll come back to that maybe in the cons, but the data's there if you want it.
Fair enough. How easy are they to live with? Installation, setup, maintenance?
This is another area reviewers consistently praise. Installation is apparently super easy, few minutes job.
Really?
Yeah, you just need a regular 15mm pedal spanner. No Allen key needed on the inside of the crank arm like some pedals. Torque it down, they recommend 30-40 Newton meters. Specify at 35 nanometers on the pedal itself.
Okay, standard tool, straightforward.
Setup via the Favero Assioma app is also simple. Activate them, register, set your crank length. Done. Maintenance seems easy too. They even include the greasing tools you need.
They include the tools. That's a nice touch.
Yeah, and clipping in and out with Shimano SPDSL cleats feels just like a normal Shimano pedal, reviewers say. Solid, intuitive.
Good. And versatility. Can you swap them between bikes easily?
Yes. This is a huge one, the modularity. It's a major advantage people highlight, especially if you ride different disciplines.
How does that work?
The core part, the spindle with all the electronics, can be easily swapped between the road pedal body, the PRO RS we're talking about, and the off-road PRO MX pedal body.
Ah, so you could have one set of electronics and use them on your road bike and your gravel bike.
Exactly. You just buy the extra pedal bodies, which are cheaper than a whole new power meter, and swap the spindles over with basic tools. Huge value potential there. For someone like the 5K runner who does multiple sports, that's probably a big draw.
That is clever. Really adds to the value. Which brings us to price. How do they fare there?
This is probably their ace card, honestly. Reviewers consistently call them incredibly cost-effective.
Cheaper than the competition.
Yeah, often described as the cheapest option for a quality dual-sided pedal system. We're talking around €705, $789, $649. That's significantly less than, say, Garmin Rally dual-sided pedals.
That's a big difference.
It is. And those replacement pedal bodies we mentioned.
Yeah.
Also substantially cheaper than competitor bodies. So the long-term value looks really good too. This combination of features, performance, and price is why you see terms like no-brainer or the one to beat.
Wow, okay. And build quality. Do they feel solid despite being so light?
Seems so.
Yeah.
They use carbon fiber tech polymers for the body, meant to be tough and shock resistant. Inside, they have durable needle roller bearings.
Needle bearings, okay.
Yeah, rated for high loads and speed. Should feel smooth. And reviewers like that they ship with genuine Shimano SPD SL cleats. So you're good to go with quality cleats out of the box.
Okay, so that's a really strong list of positives. Super light, super accurate, reliable, podless design, standard fit, decent battery, loads of data, easy to use, modular, great price, good build. It almost sounds too good. What's the catch? What are the downsides reviewers pointed out?
Right. There's always a flip side, isn't there? And yes, reviewers did flag a few things. None seem like absolute deal breakers for everyone, but they're definitely worth considering.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, let's go back to battery life. That 60 hours, while it's fine for most, it is significantly less than the 120 plus hours you might get from Garmin Rally.
Yeah, we touched on that.
Some reviewers also wish for more advanced battery management tools in the app. Things like setting a charge limit to maybe 80% to potentially help long-term battery health, or getting low battery warnings a bit earlier, say at 20%. Small things, but noted.
Okay, so battery life is good, but not class-leading, and maybe lacks some fine-tuning options. What else?
The potentially bigger one for some riders. Cleat compatibility. The PRO RS model is only compatible with Shimano SPDSL cleats.
Only Shimano. No Look Kiyo option.
Not for this PRO RS generation, no. Unlike Garmin Rally, where you can choose a Shimano or a Look Keo version, Favero doesn't offer a Look body for these new spindle-based pedals yet.
Any word if that might change?
One source mentioned a rumor, maybe 2026 for a Look version, but that's just speculation. Right now, if you're committed to Look EO cleats, these aren't for you unless you switch systems.
That's a definite limitation for a chunk of the market. Okay, what else?
The charging clips. While the cable is USB-C, you still need those specific magnetic adapters that clip onto the spindle ends.
Right, not a direct USB-C port on the pedal.
Correct. Probably necessary for the waterproofing and design, but slightly less convenient than a universal port directly on the device. A minor point, but there it is.
Fair enough. What about all that data, the cycling dynamics? Any criticism there?
Not about the accuracy of the data itself, that gets praised, but one reviewer, I think it was DC Rainmaker, questioned the practical, day-to-day training value of all those advanced metrics beyond power, cadence, and balance.
So, like, is knowing your exact platform center offset going to change how you train tomorrow?
Kind of that idea. The reviewer felt that, while interesting, the real-world applicability of some deeper metrics for guiding training wasn't always clear for the average rider. The core stuff is key, the rest might be more niche.
Okay. Installation quirks. Anything to watch out for there?
Pedal spacers. Sources mention that using spacers can potentially mess with the power readings,
How so?
because it changes the leverage slightly where the force is measured. Reviewers generally advise against using them if possible to ensure that plus-minus 1% accuracy holds true. If you absolutely need spacers for your fit, it's something to be cautious about.
Gotcha. Avoid spacers if you can. What about maintenance? You said tools are included, but is it effort-free?
Not completely. Like any pedal, especially one with bearings exposed near the road, they do need occasional service. Greasing the bearings is the main thing mentioned. It's designed to be easy with the included tools, but it's not zero maintenance.
Okay, standard procedure for pedals then, really.
Pretty much. Then there was this point about potential pedal body play.
Play, as in wobble.
Yeah, this came up mainly in reviews of the PRO MX, the off-road version, which uses the same spindle.
Yeah.
Because they use needle roller bearings, there can be a tiny amount of detectable play if you wiggle the pedal body by hand.
How much play? And can you feel it when riding?
It was measured at like 0.1 millimeters, very, very small. And crucially, reviewers like GPLlama were clear. You cannot perceive this while riding. It doesn't affect the feel or performance at all.
So it's technically measurable, but practically irrelevant.
That seems to be the consensus. They compared it to similar minor play in other high-end pedals. Maybe not quite as tight as adjustable Dur-Ace bearings, but functionally a non-issue.
Okay, good to clarify. Anything else on the setup side?
Just two small things. You must set your crank length manually in the app or your head unit. If you swap pedals between bikes with different crank lengths, you absolutely have to remember to change that setting. Otherwise, power data is wrong.
Right, easy to forget, maybe.
And, like most power meters, you need to do a manual zero offset calibration when you install them or swap them. Just a quick procedure, but necessary for consistent accuracy.
Standard power meter stuff then. Okay, so recapping the cons. Battery life is good, but not the longest. Shimano SPDSL only for now. Proprietary charging clips. Maybe questionable value in all the dynamics metrics for some. Potential issues with spacers. Needs occasional greasing. Tiny bit of measurable but not perceptible play. And manual crank length zero offsetting.
That sums it up pretty well.
So we have this strong list of pros: weight, accuracy, modularity, price are huge standouts, and this shorter list of cons, some minor, some potentially significant, like cleat type. How do reviewers weigh it all up? What's the final verdict?
The final verdict across the board is overwhelmingly positive, really positive.
Yeah.
Reviewers like DC Rainmaker, GPLlama, others, they really seem to think Favero nailed it with these. They consistently call them the new standard, the one to beat, a no-brainer for many cyclists.
Why such strong praise despite the cons?
It's that overall package. The combination of being the lightest, having that rock-solid, trusted accuracy, the clean podless design, standard fit, the modularity, and then hitting that incredibly competitive price point. It just seems to tick so many boxes so well.
So the value proposition is just that strong.
Extremely strong.
Yeah.
GPLlama basically said Favero might have just won the power meter game with these, at least for this segment. And DC Rainmaker felt the price difference compared to Garmin Rally was so significant it made the Favero the obvious choice, leading him to buy multiple sets of the MX version himself.
So compared directly to, say, Garmin Rally, the trade-offs are mainly battery life and cleat options for the Favero PRO RS.
That seems to be the core trade-off identified. Garmin gives you longer battery and Look Keo options, but at a significantly higher price and slightly more weight stack height. Favero gives you amazing value, lighter weight, modularity, but shorter battery life, and currently only Shimano SPD SL for the road version.
And for most reviewers, the Favero side of that trade-off wins out.
For many, yes, especially considering the price. The sentiment is that despite the few drawbacks, the Favero Assioma RS is a potential gold standard, particularly if you're happy with or already use Shimano SPD SL cleats. The value is just exceptional.
Okay. So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, our listener, thinking about these pedals? We've dived into these reviews, looked at the feathery weight, the trusted accuracy, the podless design, but also the battery limits and cleat restrictions.
And looking at the bigger picture, this feels like pedal power meters are really maturing. Favero seems to have ironed out earlier quirks, like those pods, and they're delivering really high performance, plus that clever modularity at a price that makes dual-sided power much more accessible.
Right. So for you, the key takeaway seems to be these pedals deliver incredibly well on the core things you want: accuracy, reliability, low weight, easy use. There are a few compromises, mainly battery life compared to the very longest lasting, and that Shimano-only cleat system for now. But the price. Reviewers think it's almost unbeatable for what you get.
Which leads to the question you might want to mull over. Does that package the modularity, the accuracy, the weight, and especially that significant price advantage outweigh the desire for maybe double the battery life or the flexibility of having like key EU compatibility that some competitors offer?
Something for you to think about based on your own riding and priorities. Thanks again for sending in the sources that let us do this deep dive.